Azania, Africa. Yeah. This is Tiaba, the original social worker, also known as the Shepherd. That to split the mount, yeah. Yo, that's the massive. La Pula, Changa,
If I look at the question of how mainstream media views lesbian and gay people and lesbian and gay issues in South Africa, I think underlying the whole thing is a sense of heterosexism. That's to say, not homophobia, where they would be anti-gay per se, but heterosexism which assumes that everyone that's reading their article is straight. And what that does is that, you know, the estimated 10% of the population who are lesbian or gay are alienated by what's being written. And even some gay journalists in mainstream media write as if they are straight.
I don't know if the new South African models and values are any different to the old South African models and values when it comes to sexuality. I think South Africa is extremely repressed. I think that when it comes to issues of sexuality, we have adopted very much an accommodationist approach to gay and lesbians. We as a society haven't looked at heterosexuality as a construct the way we looked at whiteness, white supremacy as a construct, the way we looked at apartheid as a construct, and the way we systematically dismantled those or are trying to dismantle them. We haven't even started doing that with sexuality.
Okay, first of all, I don't think gay people are portrayed in the media unless there's something bad going on, unless there's some mishap, something negative that the media can latch on. I mean, obviously it is, for me anyway, it seems as though media is intent on making absolutely sure that even if there's a positive story that's going on, or anything that's going on, that they would rather separate like umuntu, the person, themselves, and the fact that they're gay and their sexuality. So then we're all a sum total of our sexuality.
I wouldn't say I'm satisfied with the way they portray gay people in the media. It's mostly, it has a lot to do with sex, it has a lot to do with promiscuity, it has a lot to do with drugs, it has a lot to do with, you know, a whole lot of negative things. And it's very rare to find that they focus on the positives, like the successes, the rags to riches stories.
I think the media views the gay community very much like the general public views the gay community as, you know, sexual deviants that are to be tolerated and people who are easily open to ridicule.
I have this perception that from the term they start calling them gay, they have this attitude of supremacy and undermining them.
I think the media today and, you know, South African newspapers and all over the world, the way they're talking about gay people today is simply because gay people are coming out freely and they are proud of who they are, so they're actually shocking the world that this is who we are, we're coming out and you take it or leave it. Like us, is a first gay group in Africa to say we are gays and we are proud. And you know, we're actually attracting the media and people want to know about this. There's a hit song that we've got, it is Heterosexism. You know, wherever we go, people like call like say, hey, Heterosexism, it's like it's interesting. And in fact, if you can see, there's nothing different. It's only how we do some other things, you know, it's only different. I'm a human being, I've got 2 legs, 2 hands, intelligence like everybody else.
Brenda Fassie, she was a superstar. Media, yes, positive or negative, I deserve it because of Brenda Fassie. I mean, it was, they were like out of this world, you know. So each and every little thing and I pull attention.
Obviously, when you're a personality and then you are an individual who do your own things, well, you know, it is most likely that the media will latch onto that and start speculating or start talking or whatever. But I mean, you know, Brenda didn't help it very much either because, you know, she fed the speculation. For her, the hype about whatever was going on in her life was part of the publicity.
There were some publications which obsessed about her lesbian relationships. And if it's ploughed into again and again and again, this idea that she had these bizarre relationships and that they were lesbian, it somehow reflects lesbianism as a negative thing rather than a positive thing.
Brenda Fassie was very wealthy, she had a very rich character. And that in its own right, it makes them a one of a kind. And I have always made jokes that, you know, if you find somebody who's excellent in whatever they do, whether it be soccer, be music, maybe politics, be any form of leadership that you can think of, you'd find that God has given just 1 out of 10 something extra.
Her talent was so powerful that it really outshined her sexuality, because it was like, Brenda, when she said, I'm lesbian, wow, Brenda is lesbian, let's move on.
There's a lot of titillation value around the fact that she was bisexual more than that she was lesbian. And I always think that bisexuals are easier for the media and for people in general to handle than lesbians. So Brenda Fassie was framed very much, her lesbianism was framed very much in the context of frivolity, excess, what she did when she was having, you know, taking her drugs. Her lesbianism was a safe kind of lesbianism because she essentially was a mother and she was somebody's wife at some stage. I never really saw her as a lesbian icon. We don't have one in South Africa. We don't have an out and proud lesbian icon.
I don't know if Brenda Fassie was a gay icon. I'm not entirely sure. She was a musical icon. She was my icon in kind of many respects, in particular musically, you know. But if she was a gay icon,
They used her as a cash cow, you know. I remember there was an article, they say Brenda and her sex slave. So when I remember well, I was with Brenda Fassie when the paper was out, and the very same girl that they said, they were on paper saying that Brenda used them as their sex tool. They said, Brenda, we just want to confess, we actually bought by these people to say this about you. They actually gave us 500 rands. And you know what, Brenda Fassie was crying, said, you know guys, don't do this to me. What are they going to say about Bongani's mom? She went to Mandela and she said, Baba, please, I'm sick and tired, because they talk things about me. I know I'm not perfect now. But the way they're actually coming on to me is just too much. I can't handle it anymore. So she was sensitive somehow, you know.
When they write about gay people in South Africa, still they have this notion that they are not good people. Even if you've done positive things, they don't really write about them.
I think Mokoena, for all intents and purposes, is straight. I think that, you know, his homosexual side is very much a sort of hole in the corner thing that he really wanted to keep hidden. I think the fact that he was outed as a homosexual and the fact that he was fighting with a woman over another man, that was really titillating. And the fact that he's involved in sports, in soccer, the bastion of the straight black man. I mean, it just changed the way a whole lot of men viewed him. I think a lot of the reporting around him was extremely homophobic. A lot of the reporting was as if he was deranged and or diseased.
If we decide, okay, let's not judge each other, let's not judge one another, let's not be judgmental, I think it's up to an individual. Who do I offend by paying lobola for another man? I mean, if I feel he is worthy of this and that or paying lobola for, let me pay lobola.
The industrialized, commercialized black person thinks it's not important to do a lobola anymore. And in the African context, it's some form of community building, bridging, where you go and take a bit of what we call African wealth, because cattle is wealth, to go and plant it elsewhere and come back with a flower.
did colonization bring homosexuality or did colonization bring homophobia? Or you would even go further in saying, isn't like the whole an African thing really about sexuality is never spoken? It's rather an un-African thing to talk about sex or sexuality?
To come to say that being gay is un-African, then sometimes it is true when you say being a human being is un-African. It's just that simple.
Here's somebody who was well respected in his community, well respected in the, learned community as well, by his students, by his colleagues, who gets brutally murdered, you know? And the only thing anybody remembers is, yeah, he was having gay sex.
First of all, a professor has been killed, their whole government is gone. The second day, no, it's a more fit, then the whole government is shied away. And then the third day is the media and the details, making death lose its depth of us respecting that someone is gone.
In some reports, that those rent boys or whatever that were part of the crime were actually straight people, and they were somehow being abused by him. So I think the reality of the relationship between him and the guys who murdered him was very, very ambiguous.
When they were reporting it, the whole story was to report the gory detail of the sex, to do a very, very unnecessary issue of embarrassing the family of Papo.
For me, every time I saw the headlines, it was more about, for me it was more protecting the perpetrators than the actual victim.
It doesn't matter who and what he was or what he did for his community or his people or his students. It didn't matter. What mattered was the description of that gay sex.
It is right that stories and issues should be followed. But again, you see that the media, whenever they look at a story of a gay person, then already they use their mentality of making sure that they pull him so down to undermine the whole idea of being gay.
Should homosexuals be allowed to marry? But didn't we kind of do that when we were doing the Constitution? Isn't it like past already? Aren't we supposed to be at a completely different level now of thinking and of talking?
What are the real facts around homosexuality? What does it mean to be gay? What are the views of gay and lesbian people? What are the main issues? And then also, how do you cover it?
Not all editors necessarily choose sensational stories, but I think that the criteria for what makes an important story is usually, is it in the interest of the public? Is this issue in the public interest? And the public generally is still regarded as being men. I mean, it used to be white middle-class men. Increasingly, it's black middle-class men.
As somebody who works in the media, what I attempt to do in redressing the situation is making sure that there's like a positive gay thing happening in almost every show that I do.
As a feminist, I feel very strongly about gay and lesbian issues, specifically lesbian rights. And so the way I would approach a story would be from a position of equality. I don't know how other journalists define responsible reporting. I think that if you're going to be responsible around gay and lesbian issues, you should allow gay and lesbian people to define the terrain into which you are stepping.
If people portray you in another way and it affects you and it makes you forget who you are and you start rearing your life to try and nurse what people say so that they cannot say it again, then it's a problem, because a lot of people lose to find the content within themselves.
I don't have as much control as I would like to. And sometimes they portray me as this, I still don't see myself as controversial.
If I'm honest to myself first, I'm frank to myself, I'm truthful, and I respect myself.
Making out of having sex in a park, that's controversy. I was seen kissing 2 women and 1 man kneeling down and doing things, that's controversy. But saying to South Africa, hey, I'm gay, that's not controversy. It's like saying, I am Somizi.